asleep on the, you know what.
No, stop. Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes. What is his subject matter?
I have no idea.
Same thing.
It's I don't get it. Is it not working?
Free to cut him off.
Yes, well, feel free. Oh, I thought we were going to get to see Kendall's boot.
All right, and we're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022 City Commission meeting. Thank you for being here tonight online and in person. And I would like to start this by asking for the roll call, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Here.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So on our agenda tonight, under item number 3, we have 2 items. One gives me a great deal of pleasure, although I will be the last person to serve in commission position number 2. That is over. So we would like to call to the front Mike Mitchell and the Honorable Amy Lindgren to administer the oath of office for Michael Mitchell.
Try to angle, so face the camera. Raise your right hand.
He said, hold it right up. Closer.
I state your name.
I, Michael Mitchell,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
along with the Oregon City Municipal Charter and Code.
along with the Oregon City Municipal Charter and Code.
I will, to the best of my ability,
I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties
faithfully perform the duties
of City Commissioner
of City Commissioner
of Oregon City
of Oregon City
during my incumbency thereof.
during my incumbency thereof.
Congratulations.
After you sign, Mr. Mitchell, would you kindly take your seat so we can continue the meeting? All right. Next on our agenda is a proclamation for fallen officers Robert Libke and Officer George Hanlon. This proclamation is to recognize and honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting the Oregon City community. Whereas law enforcement is an honorable, hardworking profession that diligently seeks to make our community more livable and safe, and whereas there is no greater sacrifice an officer can make for their community than to give their life, and whereas the death of police officers shocks the very soul of our community, our government, and the very freedoms the officers have sworn to protect, and whereas the impact of this tragedy upon the officer's family, friends, department, community is immeasurable, and whereas our hearts and thoughts go out to the many killed in action while serving to protect our community. Whereas therefore I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, along with the City Commission and the citizens of Oregon City, Oregon, extend heartfelt condolences to the families of the following officers. Reserve Police Officer Robert Libke, lost on November 3rd, 2013. Police Officer George J. Hanlon, lost on April 23rd, 1906. These officers have been lost but will not be forgotten. This community will forever be grateful. We ask for a moment of silence as we remember Oregon City's valuable public servants and pray for healing and hope in the future. Witness thereof, I will set my hand on this day, second day of November, 2022. And we have a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. It's just this is probably one of the hardest proclamations I'll ever have to read. It's just very, very difficult, but we know that they're in our hearts forever. Next is item number 4, citizen comments, and we have 2 people who are interested in speaking before the commission. Do you have Mr. Burge on the phone line?
Hello, Dan. This is Angelique with the City of Oregon City at the City Commission meeting. Would you like to provide your public comment?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Hi, Dan Berg, Oregon City. This is about the mayor's eligibility of running for again. The citizens have voted and wanted the mayor and the commissioners for 2-term limits only. On my email dated September 26, 2022, the city attorney's response letter says the city disagrees. Does this mean the mayor and the commissioners approve the city attorney's letter, or did the city manager approve it? Only commissioners can determine the eligibility. McGriff was elected and served 1-term commissioner January 1st, 2021, December 31st, 2024, vacated an unexpired term September 21st, 2022, and now is currently serving a term January 1st, 2012 to December 31, 2022 as mayor. That's given McGriff a total of 2 terms in a 10-year period. If allowed to run November 8th, she would then be serving 3 terms in a 10-year period without a 2-year break, which does not follow the intent of the city charter or the people's vote. In summary, we provided solid evidence to further support the question regarding the nieces being ineligible for the November 8, 2022 election. I'm requesting McGriff be deleted from running for a 3rd term. I've also provided a link in the past to the city's broadcast with the earlier city attorney's comments, which someone seemed to deem that I had made up the comments, but this was from the YouTube broadcast. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope everybody looks at the material I did send you. Thank you.
Mr. Gabaisman, would you like to once again reiterate what you have already previously stated now for the 3rd time?
Mayor and Commissioners, as you know, there are term limits for running for mayor contained in Section 9 of the Charter. And what it says is if a prospective candidate for election to the office of mayor has been elected either to the office of mayor or city commission for more than 2 terms of 4 years in the previous 10 years, the candidate shall not be eligible. The most recent term of election was for the remainder of the previous mayor's position, essentially worked out to 3-4 months, and that was not a term of 4 years. So Mayor McGriff was elected to 1 term of 4 years and 1 term less than 4 years, and so she remains eligible is the interpretation. Ultimately, it's the commission's interpretation that we discussed, I want to say back in May or June, and that we have continued to run by, to operate under.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or statements? We've kind of beat this dead horse already.
Yeah, at the risk of prolonging this conversation, this gentleman's been beating this horse for a long time. I question his ability to serve because you have to be able to read and distinguish between things like appointed versus elected and times of service. So I'll state publicly, I agree with the attorney's interpretation of it. It's not interpretation, it's just a reading of it as it stands. It's not even, we see it this way. This is what it says, this is what we've done, this is what we will always do. End of story. If the gentleman doesn't like that outcome, he has other avenues he can pursue, but this is not the place.
Are we,
No comment.
can we move on?
Yes.
Mr. Gifford?
Twice in one night.
Madam Mayor,
No, I do not.
what do you prefer? Your Honor?
Chair.
No.
Your Supreme Potentate? There's got to be some title I
Well,
can use.
Clock's running.
Madam has an inference that is not particularly appealing to me. I do go by my own name, so I use Ms. as my pronoun in front of my name besides she, her. So Mayor Denise McGriff is just fine.
Mayor McGriff and City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. I have come to this City Commission many times. Oh, by the way, congratulations, Commissioner Mitchell. In praise of the quality of work and the quality of character of our staff. And I think that our city manager has assembled one of the finest staffs and team in the state. And I stand behind that position. Tonight, particularly, I'd like to point out an incident that occurred on Molalla Avenue where there is a sign that says sidewalk closed because they don't want you to cross Molalla at that particular intersection of Hilltop and Molalla. And I don't know how it happened, but that saying got turned so that it was sticking out into the street and it was blocking the sidewalk, so someone in a wheelchair couldn't even get by. And I kept meaning to put it on my, whatever it's called, OC request or whatever it is, because I've used that very successfully in the past. It's a great system, but I hadn't gotten around to it. And I walked by a day or two later, and it was fixed. Just like that, and I didn't even have to complain about it. I'm so proud of our public works, and I consider them the third leg in our in the stool of our emergency preparedness, where we have the police, we have the fire, and we have public works. Because without public works keeping our streets clean and free of snow and water running, we would be in a world of hurt in any sort of an emergency. So I just want to give a tip of the hat to our public works and all of their dedicated employees.
Thank you so much.
So you don't always have to be afraid when I come up to the city commission.
Were you implying that somebody was afraid? Or were you inferring that someone was afraid?
I think the word is entertained.
We are not afraid. All right. Do we have any presentations this evening? Number 6 is the adoption of the agenda. Gentlemen, have you, and I can actually say that now. Gentlemen, have you taken a look at items 7A, B, C, and D? And do you have any concerns with any of them? Otherwise, I will ask for a motion for approving the consent agenda.
I have nothing to pull. No, excuse me, I have nothing to pull.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, we have item number 8, first reading of ordinance number 221008, proposed annexation at 19024 Rose Road to the city of Oregon City. I believe this is planning.
Thank you, Mayor McGriff. Commissioners, I have a short 5 or 6 slide presentation. I'll wait for that to go up. Okay. So what you have in front of you this evening is a request for annexation. It's an emergency annexation that generally just went directly to the City Commission. But as directed by the City Commission last fall, annexations that are required to connect up to city sewer are sent to the Planning Commission first and then to the City Commission. So this application was presented to the Planning Commission at their October 10th meeting. They recommended approval and now is in front of you. So I'll go through some of the basic facts. This is an annexation of approximately 1.9 acre property located at 19024 Rose Road. The applicant desires to annex the property due to a failed septic system. Annexation is required as a condition of connecting to the city sewer system. The applicant has not requested a zone change for this application and will remain in the FU10 county holding zone, which means they could not divide or develop a property that is less than 10 acres. And any zone change, they would need to come in and apply for a type 4 zone change application in the future. Let's see, they're designated low-density residential, so if they came into a zone change in the future, they would request either an R6, R8, or R10 zone. The property has a sewer connection availability right in front of them on Rose Road. Rose Road, they abut the city limits through Rose Road, and they were able to actually hook up to city services previously this year in late spring. And so at this point, they have access to city and water and sewer, and now they're making their way through the annexation process to be brought into city limits, pay city taxes, be added to the Tri-City Sewer District, removed from Clackamas River water. So this is the administrative portion of that process. So this shows the single-family house on the property. Let's see, next slide. As part of the application request, the applicant will move to city water and remove themselves from the Clackamas River Water District. They will, and they have hooked up to city services such as sewer. As I mentioned, this was presented to the Oregon City Planning Commission October 10th, and they recommended approval. This property is located in the South End concept plan. You see the red arrow and the kind of yellow box. It's identified as low-density residential in the South End concept plan area, so any future zone change would be consistent with this plan. The property does have a natural resource overlay district on the property. There's a small stream in the rear. And so even though they are located in the FU10 zone, even if they move forward with a building permit application, they are still subject to the natural resource overlay district now that they are once they are inside city limits. And so at this point, staff recommends approval of the annexation with conditions that you find in your staff report, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? I actually have several. Refresh my memory as to why we allow people to hook up before they request annexation.
Sure.
Oregon
Administrative
discussion in October.
Yeah, Oregon administrative rules through DEQ requires property owners to hook up to city sewer if they were within 300 feet. So this applicant had a failed septic system. Actually, it was a very failed septic system. And so as part of that, they paid for the city hookup. And they're required to get access to a city sewer per the DEQ Oregon administrative rules. At this point, what the City Commission is looking at is, do you allow the annexation to move forward to bring the property into the city limits, pay city taxes, remove them from the appropriate county jurisdictions into the city jurisdiction, or do you deny the annexation, they remain in the county, but you have an extraterritorial city service? So that's really the question based on the Oregon advised rules from DEQ that states that property owners are required to hook up if there is a sewer service available in front of them.
Okay, well, that didn't totally answer my question. So what I know about septic tanks is unfortunately considerable, and I know that when one is having a failing system, you know about it. I mean, it's not like something today it fails and tomorrow it doesn't. So why did this take so long to get to us? I mean, why didn't we get this summer? Or I guess what I'm a little concerned about is that I'm happy that they're connected because nobody wants to have a failing septic system. I can tell you that. I have been through that experience and it's not fun. I'm just concerned about the timing. So it's you get hooked up first and then you come in, to me, it seems like the process is reversed. You come into the city, then you get hooked up. So maybe my thinking is completely off. It has nothing to do with this particular property, but this came up about a year ago, and we had quite a lengthy discussion about what the whole process was. And I understand because I was involved in the Park Place thing, and we got them into the city and got everybody hooked up, kind of in a simultaneous, because it was a health hazard annexation. Was this a health hazard annexation?
This was deemed by Clackamas County to be a failed septic, and therefore it was processed through Public Works, which a requirement to hook up to city sewer.
Okay.
Did you say you can do an extraterritorial hookup?
If the annexation is denied, then the property would be considered an extraterritorial connection. That would be there's two options in front of the City Commission this evening. Approve the emergency annexation, and this property is brought into the city, starts paying city taxes, and gets de-annexed from Clackamas River Water and gets brought into the Tri-City Sewer District. Or the annexation is denied, but the extraterritorial service is retained, and so the property still pays their sewer bill to the city of Oregon City.
So they have not paid those utility rates since they have been connected?
The applicant has hooked up to city sewer.
Right.
And are paying the city rate for just the sewer.
Okay, and they have been since they connected?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When did this happen again?
Let me look at the Public Works the file was 2216, which I believe the final approval was in May.
I've raised this before, and it's not my issue with this one. But sometimes I feel like this is a backdoor into annexation and then subsequent zone change and development. So, I mean, the property looks like it was sold on February 22nd. We get this, we bring them in as an annexation. They subsequently apply for rezoning. It's a $600,000 piece of 1.9 acres, and then it gets rezoned and we get it developed. So I think and I'm not accusing these folks, but sometimes I feel there's some gamesmanship that goes on in this to get in and then subdivide. And it's just an observation. And
it was your observation in October. That's why I brought it back up again, because you made these various points about.
And it bothers me.
What's going on, so.
And I don't know what to do about it. I mean, we could do the extraterritorial thing and they'd have all the service they need and not annex, and they stay out in the county and they remain at whatever it is, 10.
Donna, I must have missed that when I was reviewing this. Did you say that the property recently sold?
Well, it's in the deed up there, and it says the recording is February 22nd, 2022, for the amount of $600,000. That doesn't.
So who requested is the person whose name's on that the person that requested the annexation and hookup?
Is that the same person? Who is
the new owner requested it as part of the process. They knew, and I'm speaking as a memories with the applicant, is as part of the purchasing the property, they knew the septic was in bad condition, and as they knew that they would need to hook up to sewer as part of the house sale. So they were anticipating this.
See, I'm fine with providing extraterritorial service and just letting it remain. I mean, we're still going to collect our fees for service. But
Well, it's whatever your guys' pleasure is. I just raised the question because I remembered you asking this before.
And I feel the same way today. Commissioner Mitchell has a question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor McGriff, before I ask a question, I need to ask an opinion of Mr. Kabaisman. I did hear this item and vote on it on the Planning Commission. Am I okay to vote or
You should
take part?
probably recuse yourself because you should probably recuse yourself. You have already expressed your.
Okay, and I recuse myself.
So what's your pleasure? Do we have a motion? Can't make one, so. Having a Mike Myers moment, talk amongst yourselves. Or actually Barbara Richmond, I should say Barbara Richmond moment.
Well, I've made my statement about possibilities. You know, you can either annex or you can provide extraterritorial. I'd like to hear from others.
Mr. Morrow, do you have any opinion about this? It's a little bit bigger than just this particular annexation. I think it's,
What are the pros and cons of that?
Well, I was going to say, Mayor McGriff, it is a public hearing, so before
Right.
there's a motion or decision, we should see if there's any public input.
is there anyone in the audience that wanted to talk about this particular item? Because I don't see anybody and I don't have any slips, so.
The applicant was not planning to attend this evening. He was not expecting, but
I'm sure they,
if the city commission feels it's important to have the applicant speak, then a continuance may be needed if you think that their backstory or their explanation is needed as part of this.
I personally don't want to continue anything. I like to keep the schedule moving.
well, then make a motion, please.
Well, I would just like to hear some of the ramifications of what Commissioner O'Donnell has brought up, because we would still be getting our rate paid.
Right, the two things to think about, they're going to continue to get sewer service. As Mayor McGriff said, the last thing you want is a failed septic system for any number of reasons. So really the question then goes to other pieces. In terms of, as Christina said, the annexation means that there's city taxes. In addition, right now they pay county taxes. This would go to the general fund, whatever additional taxes come in as a, so there is that revenue piece of it. In addition, they would likely be able to, rezone. You'd have to go through the process of applying for and receiving a rezone and going through the various pieces. Should you deny it based on House Bill, I know it was in the staff report, I can't remember what it is. Essentially, it meets most of the requirements for automatic annexation, so they could force it, regardless. So, the biggest ramification is if you don't annex, that's one more step that they would later have to rezone and develop any additional, any additional dwellings or subdivide. If you also rezone, the city forgoes revenue that's associated with taxing this piece of property. Those are really the two biggest pieces that you're juggling.
Okay. So providing the extraterritorial service, it gets them what they need to continue on as a single-family residence. It does not avail them of the opportunity to rezone.
No,
Without a subsequent step, as you just described.
right, without coming back to you for an annexation.
Well, I would say, go ahead.
I just don't think that we should be foregoing property taxes while we're providing services to them. So that's all I have to say.
I guess I would say that the one thing that that I am aware of, and Christina did bring it out in her report, is that this is part of the South End Road
Yes.
Concept Plan.
Yes.
And that is, again, a plan that we have great expectations that it will be modeled and followed, and, we're not looking at something that somebody's just chopping up property. It needs to meet the intent and what that plan calls for, which is, again, a different sort of development pattern than we are generally accustomed to, because it's got these natural resource areas in it. And I believe, as I recall from the plan work that we did on that, the subcommittee that I was on basically looked at making sure that a lot of that was preserved, because they have flooding over in that area. There's definitely problems with water, and we don't want any of that to be subjected to, oh, this is not a natural resource area, so we're just going to, plow it over and then cause problems for people down the road, because I know that's happened when it was still in the county. There's been some alterations of the water table there and the path of the water stream, and people on the other end are getting that water backed up on their property because it isn't allowed to go where it would naturally go. So I'm aware of that from the South End Road work that we did.
I'm also curious, is this property included in that discussion about us doing a swap with, was it Tigard?
No.
This property is not part of that,
Yeah, no, it's not.
not part of
They
that
dropped
discussion.
that one. It's the property off south of Redland Road that is being proposed.
Okay, I was just reading the letter from the county
Right.
about their issue with it.
Yeah, they don't have an issue with our part. They have an issue with the part that's near Damascus.
Whatever the pleasure of the commission is.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it.
So if we annex this property in, they would shift from CRW to South Fork?
Yes.
Yes.
And then you provide police
Right.
and fire protection.
I
mean, I
for itself.
I'm kind of on the fence with it. I think this is an issue that we have to figure out, if there is a loophole here that people are using as a bypass. But we don't necessarily know that for sure with this specific one. It's possible.
I don't think it's this one specifically.
And it's possible that it's, just an emergency, sewer, which we've passed all the time, like nothing. So I think, I don't have a problem approving this annexation, but I think if we feel that there's some sort of, loophole that can be fixed, which I don't know if that is possible or not, then maybe that's a separate conversation. So I'm kind of in the middle on it.
I think we do have a little bit of a loophole, and again, for the public's benefit, I'm not interested in denying anybody annexation. Part of what our concern is, it's a broader issue of timing, again, so that's why I asked, because I thought I saw it. So we had something happen in May. It is now October. Like I said, your septic tank doesn't all of a sudden just die one day. It's a slow process of it having problems. So I would suspect that this was something that parties are aware of well in advance of May when they hooked up. I mean, she stated that there was a recognition that the septic tank was failing. So there was something going on prior to February that was, again,
Yeah.
it's a matter of timing and, what's expedient and, and as you stated, Commissioner O'Donnell, you're not accusing anybody of anything, but it seems that we've had about 3 or 4 of these in a row.
Yeah.
And I see a pattern evolving here.
That's a way in. And this is only 1.9 acres. I don't want somebody walking in here with 400 acres.
Right.
And an 800 square foot home on it saying, I need an emergency hookup, and then I'm going to subdivide. Well, it'll be an extraterritorial hookup at that point. I got news.
Yeah, I share those concerns, and I think just looking at this case by case, that this one for me does not seem to be in that vein. So for that reason, I move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 22-1008, proposed annexation of 19024 Rose Road to the city of Oregon City.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
You forgot Mr. Mitchell.
He's recused.
He still has, to. Yeah, he's,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It still has to account for that. You're abstaining.
Just abstain
basically.
or?
Miss, Commissioner Mike.
Let's just start all over.
If we're starting over, it is an ordinance, so we do need a reading of the ordinance
Yes.
before the approval.
Yeah.
So that would be a good reason to start over as
Yes,
well.
let's just start all over.
Ordinance number 22-1008, an ordinance approving emergency annexation proposal number GLUA 22013:AN 22001, and approving the annexation of certain property located at 19024 Rose Road to the city of Oregon City.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Abstain?
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye. So staff, I think you have heard our concerns, and I think we need to have some further discussion about not this particular annexation or the one, but maybe the pattern that we are seeing up here. Maybe that's not a pattern you all are seeing. So I think we probably need to address this, and I don't think it'll take a huge amount of staff time or work, but it's obviously something that we have a concern about. And I know this has happened on the last 2 to 3 that we've approved and looked at, because we said, wait a minute, there's something going on here with the timing. And again, we're not accusing anybody of anything, but we just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the public.
Mayor, if I may speak to the timing a little bit, part of the reason that you're seeing such a delay is just due to our workload and where we placed it. Annexations don't have a 120-day period, and so we prioritized what we needed to get to. And we've kind of been planning all along to bring it in the fall when we got through some of our other projects. So that's partially where that timing came from.
But the hookup was accomplished before tonight.
I'm sorry.
The hookup,
May.
yeah, was accomplished well in advance of tonight.
One way or the other, the hookup was going to occur regardless of the decision
Yeah.
on annexation.
Understood.
Well, maybe what we need to do is maybe we need to be briefed on, informally through maybe a memo when these things are coming up, so we're not having concerns about it, I guess is what I would say. All right, on to item number 9, general business. 9A, proposed Oregon City Micro Business Assistance Grant Program. So now we're going to do the switching of the seats. Thank you, Christina.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Commission. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager, Oregon City, and beside me is...
Good evening, I'm Ann Griffin, also with the Economic Development Department.
Tonight, we're here to ask, simply to ask for approval to submit a proposal to obtain grant money from the state. It's an ongoing effort to help our small business community, and this is one of those opportunities that we just didn't want to pass up. So this is simply a request to apply for a grant from Oregon Biz, and I will turn it over to Ann Griffin, and she will further explain.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Mayor. We are, the Oregon Economic Development Department, Oregon City Economic Development Department, would like to submit a proposal to Business Oregon for a grant. We are responding to a notice of funding availability that was issued by the state. And we are, this funding comes from community development block grant monies that was brought to the state of Oregon and specifically to Business Oregon as part of the CARES Act of 2021. So now Business Oregon is continuing to make these funds available to local communities. we are going to be applying for a grant program that will support micro enterprises in our community. And a micro enterprise in this case is defined as a business with 5 or fewer employees. In order to apply for grant assistance from the Economic Development Department, the micro enterprise must have an owner who is of low or moderate income and must also demonstrate that their business was negatively impacted by coronavirus. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. Give you a little more information. The proposal that we're going to submit to Business Oregon is for $115,000. We'll spend $100,000 of that on grants to the micro enterprises. We envision dispersing 10 grants of $10,000 each. And in addition to the $100,000, we will spend $10,000 on business administration services, business assistance services, and $5,000 on program administration. Oops, I'm going in the wrong direction.
So what is, Business Oregon is obviously a change of a name for something else that was something before. What was Business Oregon? Because I'm not
Right,
familiar.
so it's the economic development arm for the.
Of the city?
For the state.
Okay.
For the state.
Because I knew they were not called that. They keep changing their names and it's confusing. Thank you.
Yep, exactly. Another thing I do want to say that's important to our proposal is partnership with Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon, because it's required to receive this grant dollars that you work with a nonprofit organization that routinely provides services to small businesses, and MISO does that. So when is all this going to happen? We're required to get a grant application into Business Oregon this month. We should receive a notification of whether or not we were successful before the end of the calendar year, and then we'll be getting the funds 6 to 8 weeks after that. So sometime in January or February, the funds would be dispersed to Oregon City, and we are required to disperse all the money and provide technical assistance to micro businesses within 12 months. That's really it in a nutshell.
Questions, gentlemen?
Would you back up to the breakdown of the $115,000?
If I can, I will.
It's been finicky.
What am I doing wrong, Angelique? I think there's.
Something's wrong with the Wi-Fi.
I know. There's something wrong with the Wi-Fi. I can't even get the agenda pulled up on here.
Slide, but are you able
Well,
to
we wanted
return to the previous
perform as
slide?
good as the sound system.
Thank you.
So there's 100,000 business grants. Who provides the business assistance services to the tune of 10,000? Who will that be?
That will be MISO, which again stands for Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon.
That's the nonprofit you mentioned.
That's correct.
And what does the $5,000, who does that go to for program administration?
It's really for staff time and programs assistance services
Who's staff
within
time?
economic development.
Our staff time?
Yep, that's correct.
And do we have to complete the program within, does that mean we have to disperse all funds within 12 months?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Mr. Mitchell?
In your staff report, it indicates that we have 200 fewer business licenses. Now, and
That's
that,
right.
out of how many total? Just curious.
What is the total number?
I mean,
How many total business licenses do we have? I'm just wondering, is that 10%? Is it 5%? Is it
Yeah.
my understanding, we have about 1,200 business licenses.
1,200? Okay, so that's 13, 14%, something like that. That's pretty significant.
It is.
It is significant.
Okay. My other question, in the guidelines, it said maximum grant of 150,000. So why are we applying for 115 and not going for the maximum?
This was the number that we came up with in consultation with Business Oregon and wanting to provide grants. And actually, I'm not sure where you got the 150,000 remark, because I thought I saw that the most for there's two sections in this area. One was for small business assistance and one was for micro enterprise assistance. And for the micro enterprise category, the maximum was the 115.
Okay. I'm sorry. I would bring it up, but I can't. So, all right.
And I'd be happy to talk with you further about that after this
No,
meeting, too.
that's fine. If I misread it, I misread it. I was trying to plow through a lot of stuff in the last week.
This was it.
I've got one more question.
Oh,
I'm kind of
please.
curious, based on previous programs, what do we require from businesses who apply for this to show that they're going well-managed concerns, not living off of grants, that they're actually generating some form of income as a result of their business efforts? What's the application process?
You go ahead.
One of the things that we have to ask, the business needs to show that they were negatively impacted by coronavirus and epidemic. And in particular, they have to show that their business was doing well before the COVID-19. So before March of 2020, their business was doing well. They took a financial hit as a result of the public health requirements that was the result of the pandemic. That was a loss of revenue for them. So they would need to demonstrate that to us as part of their request for this grant money.
So I wanted to hear. I want to hear that prior to the event that cost them, that maybe on a month-to-month basis, they were generating sustainable income and they're a viable business to begin with.
That's correct, and it will be up to MISO they will have to administer that
And
requirement.
who does that audit of them? Is that us? Is that this nonprofit? Who is it?
Well, there's two steps. First, the staff, Oregon City staff, make sure that they're eligible. And then we turn it over to MISO to do the analysis further, the financial analysis, making sure that the business was doing better before the COVID-19 situation, and that kind of thing.
I'm not standing in the way of money. I just want to understand the program.
Okay. Well, yeah, so my first question was already asked by Commissioner O'Donnell about the 10 and 5,000. My other question is, with our entrepreneurial opportunity loan program, there's like a committee that selects, what's the selection, who makes the selection once we get these dollars?
That's a good question, thank you. And I don't know if we can get to, I'm sorry I was having trouble forwarding this. Because I did want to share some additional information. You're right that in addition to this grant program, one of the other small businesses resources that we have offered is the loan program. So just wanting to clarify, under the EOLP, people could apply for up to $20,000, and that was for serving startup businesses 3 years and younger. This, on the other hand, is a grant, not a loan, and it's up to $10,000. So because it is a grant, we do not have a loan committee. So you're right, Commissioner, that we had a loan
But just like the selection process was what I was curious about.
Right.
Yeah, the selection process is between staff and MISO.
Okay.
So are sole proprietorships owner-operated? Are they eligible under the microenterprise grant?
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of my questions as well. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I support this, and I think it's a good potential for grants in Oregon City. One thing I'm still struggling with is the fact that we are almost into a full year. We still do not have an economic development plan that this commission has approved. So for future, I'm hoping that's either going to come back to us with the answers that or with the questions we've been asking for, quite frankly, a year. Or if somehow we're just going to move on as an economic development part without the support of the commission. But I support this particular item.
Well, I'll support this item. If you want a summary of their economic development plan and we need to see it again, let's ask for it and let's do it. Let's look at it.
Well, my worry is we've asked for it several times. It comes to us, we still vote against it because we're not getting the answers that we've constantly asked for. So unless that dynamic changes, I assume we just go forward without support of the commission on economic development, unless we get to another budget adjustment cycle where we adjust the budget. Because as we said before, economic development is going forward full speed ahead based on the fact that the budget is approved, and they don't need the commission's support for the program.
Well, rather than just talk about it, we know how things work. If you need 3 people up here to say that we want to see that summary, you want to see that information, so I'll join you in that. And if you get one more, I'll ask for it.
Okay, well,
let's deal with this. I just want
we
that
need to
on
deal with
record that that question's not going away. But I would move to support.
Hang on.
Oh.
I haven't asked, Mike, I've waited till last to ask
Okay,
my
I didn't know
question,
you
so I
had one. Sorry.
apologize. So yeah, I also have the same question Commissioner Mitchell did, because the statement is, the number of active business licenses in our community, which should have been the number of whatever those are, because Diana knows that, decreased by 200. That would have been a little more compelling to me, because I didn't know what the overall number was. So my other question involves, what other nonprofits have we worked with, or should we be working with besides Mesa? Is Mesa the only game in town? I know what they do. I've worked with them before, but I'm just wondering if there are other nonprofit organizations that do the same thing that we have not reached out to, that we have not partnered with, so we can kind of spread the wealth on this.
Well, to answer your question, MESO is well qualified to do this. And so therefore, because of their high level of qualification and the fact that they work with micro enterprise all the time, it's a natural for them and a natural for us. So we err on their ability to do this. And so this is a micro enterprise business. They specialize in micro enterprise businesses, so it's a natural connection.
So I understand that. My question was, have you reached out to other organizations with regard to these programs besides Mesa? Because even though they're great, you say they're great and they're well qualified and all of that, and I know what their background is, again, are we focusing our targets too narrow by using the same firm all the time?
Well, this is actually only the second time we use MESO, but we've also we also partnered with the Chamber in the past on a number of things, whether it's Concierge Institute or some other initiative. So this is just an approach that is appropriate for this particular program.
And Mayor McGriff, there are other nonprofits that do provide business assistance. Obviously, the Chamber is one, but with the kind of business planning and financial preparation for micro businesses, I'm not aware of another one in Oregon City.
Okay. Well, like I said, there's others out there in the Portland metro area. And then how do you plan on getting the word out? I know that on our entrepreneurial opportunity loan, because we have small businesses who are basically hunkered down right now, and they don't have a whole lot of bandwidth, are we planning to call possible applicants, or are we sending them something in the mail besides just using the website? Because, when I go talk to people, they say, hey, here we have this program. I heard about it, or I haven't seen it. And then, when all I can say is, well, you need to talk to so-and-so, and it's on our website. I'm just wondering if we're planning on doing a bit more outreach since the time frame is so short. And I'm assuming you have some businesses already in mind that you want to target.
Well, every time we implement a program, whether it's this one or the Entrepreneurial Opportunity Loan Program, we do have a strategy for letting people know. For instance, the entrepreneurial, what is it?
I know it's hard to say.
EOLP. For that program, we actually had TV commercials. We had digital media. We had Facebook. We had a big response to what we've done. So we have a standard operation in terms of marketing promotion.
Going and talking to them or sending them a letter? That's what I'm asking. I mean, to me, that's, again, since I'm on the DOCA board and I know that these people might not be eligible or could be eligible, but they tell us that they are just overwhelmed with the stuff that's coming in on their emails. It's more than they can deal, and they're not looking at it. So I'm just wondering if we can have you thought about trying a different approach? Which is mailing something to the businesses that you're trying to target, because like I said, I'm assuming you already know who you want to target with this. Not everybody watches TV. Not everybody looks at their email. Not everybody, again, having a face to put to this would help some of these small businesses, particularly if you're looking at, as you said, lower income, they're meeting certain qualifications.
Well, this is a different kind of program. It's lower income, low to moderate income. So what we will do is, because it's a different type of program, it requires a lot of hand-holding. So yes, we will meet with individuals face-to-face, but we'll also do the other things that we've always done in order to just make sure we get the word out. We also will do a mailing through the utility bill, as we've done with the other programs. So to answer your question, yes, it's important that we have a face-to-face with people and we talk to them and help them.
Yeah, again, sometimes some of the small business owners don't get the water bill. The building owner gets it, so they might not see it.
Yeah, they may not see it.
And I've heard that as well. No, I don't get the utility bill because I don't, I pay it in my rent and I don't see that information. So I would like to strongly suggest you do some sort of I was hoping you'd say, yes, that would be great. We will think about doing a mailing. Yes, we can do a mailing, or
I think doing a mailing to business license holders is easy to do, as long as they meet those requirements.
Right, but you can go through that and say, oh, these are the ones that have 5 or fewer, and you can target them specifically. Because sometimes if they get something, it might stick. We got to try everything. So.
And I also agree that, meeting with people face to face, and you probably got to tell them 2 or 3 times that this is something that's available to them.
I know, it's got to go sink in. And since Small Business Saturday is coming up, and this is Small Business Month, November, this is probably an opportune time to make those connections. And again, I say, oh, well, I can't really ask some of these, well, do you watch our city commission meetings? Well, no, they're busy focusing on their business.
Sure.
So I just think that the more that we can do it, and again, if there's a way to run the business license list with a spreadsheet, you pull out all the 5 or fewer, you've got automatic clients right there. They might not apply, but at least they know about it. And if there's anything that you all publish about that, if you could get that to us, because you never know when we're out meeting or talking to someone and we could go, oh, here, I happen to have this about this loan program. That would be helpful. Because I had some of the stuff you got for the other program, and I was actually able to give it out to people because they said, oh, well, what financial assistance do you have? And I said, that's what?
Oh, terrific. We'll come back in January with the flyer that you can provide.
Good. Yeah, we can be some of your biggest ambassadors.
Terrific. Thank you.
I was just kind of curious about the loss of 200 businesses, and I'm not discounting cottage industries or home-operated businesses, but are they classified? Do you know that of the 200, how many are actually brick and mortar storefront that left, and how many are sole proprietorships that work out of their home that are selling widgets or whatever?
We don't have that kind of breakdown in terms of whether or not they were brick and mortar or what kind of whether they were brick and mortar. Sometimes it is a home-based business. Sometimes it's retail, that type of thing.
Is it, the reason that you're able to know about the 200 is because, the business license renewal has not started going out yet, so I know that. So these are people that basically called in and said, we're not going to be, we're going to suspend our business license, or we're not doing business anymore.
Or people that we've called and asked, you need a business license, and they said, well, we're not going to renew our business license because of circumstances.
Yeah, I'm sure that we would probably be interested in some data with regard to that.
I know that if you have a business that people are going to come to your home, you need a business license.
Yeah, but it's good till the end of the year, so they might not be in business now, but they still have a business license. Whether they're in business or not, it's still active. It's still there.
But losing a brick and mortar storefront is more devastating than losing I'm operating out of my home and I'm working for myself.
Yeah.
I've lost track. Did we have a vote already? Do we have a vote already? I just lost track. I'm sorry.
No, we didn't have, we had the start of a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I'll move to approve the Micro Business Assistance Grant Program.
Is there a second?
West.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, 9B, Historic Review Board and Planning Commission Appointment Process Discussion. And I will say that I have had quite a bit of discussion with City Recorder Jacob Wiley about this particular topic, and it's timely that he put this on the agenda and brought this to the commission. So is that you, Mr. Conkle?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Evening, Commissioner. So with the passage of the ballot measure 3580, the City Commission now appoints members of the Historic Review Board and the Planning Commission. So we're requesting how we would like to do that moving forward. Traditionally, the last version was either the Planning Commission or the Historic Review Board would do the interview process and then make a recommendation up to the mayor for appointment to that board. So there's obviously multiple ways that we could do this. One way would be to have the Planning Commission and Historical Review Board continue to do the interviews, have the opportunity for City Commission to watch those interviews, and then have a recommendation made by the Planning Commission or HRB, forwarded up for the Commission's consideration to review and take a vote on. Another option would be to have the City Commission take over the interview process for the Planning Commission and Historic Review Board applications.
Do you have any suggestions other than what's being proposed, or is this acceptable? Please go ahead, Mr. Morrow.
Well, I'm very glad we're having this conversation, and I'm grateful that this commission moved forward on that proposal to refer this to the voters. I mean, looking at what we have, I wouldn't have a problem if even just the mayor herself were to just pick a group of people and forward them to us, and we just do an up or down, yes or no. But that's just another suggestion. If we are going with one of the proposed ones on the staff report, I would prefer that it's the City Commission that does the interview and not the respective board or committee.
Other comments?
I just feel so strongly that these two commissions are so integral to the success of this city. The Planning Commission, I've seen it when it was strong, and I've seen it when it was weak. And we need it strong. We need the best candidates there. We've seen some appointments that I won't even comment on them. And we just stole one of their best people and brought them here. So I've got no issue with this group making the appointments. I don't want to leave it in the end. The product that they generate determines whether we end up in an appeal process or I miss the times when we had the best of the best in that committee. And when those things came forward, I was confident in living with whatever they did because of their expertise in the matter and their diligence. And I'd like to get back to that point again. So if it means that this group has to make those appointments, then we'll do it.
I don't have, we will make the appointment. What I would like to have done is I would like to have both of the boards do the interviews.
You want to do them concurrently, both sit in the same time, or?
No, I mean, whenever they meet. The reason that I want them to do the initial interview is that it's also about dynamics. It's about not only their expertise and what they can bring to the Planning Commission, but it's about whether or not this person that they're interviewing is going to fit into their dynamic and be a team player. The same thing that we talked about with this group. We wanted to make sure that we had people that we knew who came to us with the best interest of the city in mind. And I think that they have a good feel for, oh, this person's going to work well with us, or this person isn't, or this person has great expertise, but they're a jerk, or, whatever they're going to say. So I don't have a problem with them doing the interviews, and then they forward the recommendation to us, because we'll have the opportunity to see it. We'll have the opportunity to watch the interview, which I just recently did with PRAC. They did the interviews. I reviewed the paperwork that they submitted for the applicants, and I watched the interviews, and I concurred with them. I asked for you guys' concurrence based on my viewing of that, and you were okay with that. But I think I'd like to give them the courtesy of being able to do that.
I'm fine with that.
Are you okay with that? Do you think that would be okay?
Yeah, I am. Given the fact that the questions are canned and that but everybody's asked the same set of questions.
Yes.
And they're all available on video. The only thing I might suggest, I have this hope that we're going to begin to attract more qualified candidates for both of those. So I guess I would suggest that we have something where the city commission may, if they desire, call in all or some of the candidates for a second interview.
I think that's right.
And I'm not saying we have to do
No,
that,
but
but
we
if we
wanna
write
say
it
that we
into our
have the option.
procedures, we can do that.
Yeah, you're saying we could have the option of doing that.
Right, and I'll also say, I like the timing on this, because when we have election, new commissioners will know who they're going to be. They can watch the interviews in December, in January, before either the planning commission or the historic review board. So on that first meeting in January, new commissioners would be sworn in if they're new commissioners. The appointments could be made that night, and those bodies then don't operate shorthanded, even at their January meeting. So the timing works pretty good. And that would be my suggestion, that we have the right to second interview if we want.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that, if we need to do that. I was a proponent of this particular proposal because I had felt that looking over the past mayors that we've had over the time that we started having an elected mayor, I have felt that we had had people who were looking at these appointments in the same way that you were looking at them, Mr. O'Donnell, with the fact that we need people with some expertise. It was not political. And then for some reason, in the not too distant past, it got very political. And I hate creating a rule to correct something that I hope doesn't ever happen again. I mean, it's why we have so many things on the books. But I can perceive that there could be in the future, not us, another commission coming in that does not feel the same way that we do and would say, oh, well, we don't want them to interview. So if we enshrine this, it doesn't mean they can't change it, but we say that, yes, we want them to be a part of the process. It's on the books, and it makes it a little more difficult to pass. I agree with you that we want to make sure that our boards and commissions and committees are being reviewed with an eye towards what's best for the community. These are not political appointments. We're not looking at any politics, and we're not trying to point all of our buddies, so to speak. We're trying to find the best people out there to do this work, because it is work. It is a lot of work.
You would know, as would Mike. Who makes the final appointment?
We
collectively.
We collectively make the final appointment.
I like that, because I don't want to rely on the goodwill of a future office holder.
Well, and that's
what the measure says.
Right, and
Yes.
we were very fortunate to have good people making those appointments in the past.
So my concern was the fact that, yes, the measure, as the citizens read it, which I was going to try to actually pull it up, which we can't pull anything up right now, apparently, implies that, well, yes, I think with your addition of the ability to do a second interview process, or the commission itself does the interview process, either one of those, I guess I'm okay with, because what the voters said was they want us to do it.
The appointment.
I understand
Yes.
that, but the appointment comes from the interviews. So if we commit to all watching the interviews, that's fine, and then having an ability, but I don't know that everyone's going to do that unless we actually do the interviews ourselves. Because then you're still relying on those two boards, which could already be slanted one way based on past appointments to make those decisions. So the ability to, see those interviews and then, basically bring it up to us to go through a second process is okay. I guess that's the caveat, or just do it all ourselves. I think
we have the
is
last
something
word.
we need to do.
Yeah.
But
That was my concern, because there have been some serious questions about the functionality of some of these bodies in recent weeks. And so trying to make this as transparent as possible, especially for those of us sitting up on this dais, because in the end, we are the ones who are going to be making the decision. I felt as though having the HRB and the PC making that, not that they would be making a decision, but just in the ways that they can be doing that they can be conducting the interviews can be seen as slanted. And so that was my concern with that, and why I would prefer that we do it ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think it would be slanted. I think that they know who will be able to work with them better.
I don't think it's a matter of who works best with each other. I think it's who works in the best interest of the city.
And they're dynamic. If they've all got to be able to get along, they've got to be able to do teamwork. And you get that from doing an interview. I mean, we're not going to be directly working with them day to day on the commission that they're on, the board or commission that they sit on.
They're not going to be working with each other day to day.
Well, they will be when they're at their meetings. They will be working together. So I support the staff recommendation. I think this was well thought out, and I think it will get us what we want. We can have the option of having a second interview, and I think we may do that. So I would like to recommend that we approve this proposal, Resolution 2235.
Well, I don't think anyone's going to make that motion because without the addition of what Commissioner Mitchell mentioned or the
Do we need to add the
complete
part in
change
here
that
about
Commissioner
having
Morrow
a
mentioned?
possible second interview?
So tonight, we were requesting where the commission is, and so this is draft. We're proposing to bring it back on the 16th with
So can you
wherever
add
the
that?
consensus of the commission is. So in Exhibit A, the Oregon City Planning Commission Historic Review Appointment Procedure Policy, in Section 3, ratification of the recommendation. During the first meeting of the City Commission each year, the City Commission shall ratify the recommendations provided by the PC and HRB. In the event the City Commission disagrees with the recommendation, the City Commission may appoint other applicants to the positions. Somewhere in there, we would add that the City Commission, at their own discretion, may request a second round of interviews. So we could probably add it into the policy somewhere in that Section 3, and then we could stick a whereas in.
Or to do it in the place of.
I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion
He said he's
that
bringing this back on the 16th.
that doesn't prevent me from making a motion.
No, it does not.
I'm going to make a motion that all interviews for planning commission and historic review board go through the commission.
City Commission?
Yes.
Second.
And you just want to completely leave those commissions and boards out of it. All the other groups we work with interview their people and then make a recommendation.
They can make a recommendation all they want, but we should do the interviews because that's what the voters basically said. We're making the decision. We should do the interviews. Plain and simple.
Well, you're interpreting it broader than I did then.
Well, I have a motion. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
No.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrill,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
No.
Motion passes.
All right, on to communications.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight, I'm going to ask Mr. Lewis to come up and give an update on the Holcomb Road striping down at that corner that was brought forward by Ms.
Hammond
Williams.
Oh, good. Good.
Yep. Hope Jackie's watching tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners. So, yeah, that topic came up a couple of meetings ago, and I did email Jackie and the Park Place Neighborhood Association the same information I'm kind of reporting tonight, which is that we did a chip seal along Holcomb Boulevard. It included the section of Holcomb Boulevard from Redland Road to the Highway 213 bridge. Part of that contract included striping of all the roadways that we chip sealed. So in that location, our staff, after that report, went out and looked, and yes, the striper misstriped that area along the shoulder of the road there. He missed it by 18 to 24 inches. And they found two other locations in that same stretch of road, one down near Redland Road that is misstriped. So our intention would be to remove the striping that they put down in those areas and have them restripe it. And of course, it's kind of the wrong weather to have to do that in right now. So we are working with the contractor, actually the subcontractor, because it's a subcontractor that did the striping, to rectify that. But yeah, it was good that it was reported and wasn't intentional.
So when do we think that might be able to happen? Obviously, it's weather-driven, but
Yeah.
what's your best wild guess?
Well, it's soon, within the next couple of weeks, assuming we've got a weather window.
Well, I thought what Ms. Hammond-Williams said was spot on. And stripe never stopped a car from coming across it. So what's the next step after we change the stripe? Can you improve it? Can you widen it? Can you give them a sidewalk? She made a comment which I took to heart. And many of the folks that live up there are lower income and have to walk down there to get service. What can you do to improve the safety situation besides painting a stripe?
It is a tough section of roadway, as this location has a history. We have done some things with striping. That little median that she showed in there as well, that occurred several years ago to try and deal with just the conflicts between vehicles coming up the road and vehicles going down the road. The challenge in that corner is really just we could do more lighting. We could work with PGE to get more lighting up there, but trying to put a sidewalk in there is going to go off, and so off the edge of not only the shoulder, but kind of the edge of the drop. So there's a section of that if we really wanted to build a sidewalk all the way down to Redland Road, which is what I think you're asking.
I am.
Yeah. So it's engineering challenge. It would require shoring and it's in a geologic hazard area, so there'd be a land use process to get it to happen. And how would we dealing with stormwater. So there's several issues associated with getting more sidewalk in that area. And while we'd love to see sidewalks up and down both sides of Holcomb, we've been doing that through application of grants. As I mentioned the night that Jackie mentioned, we're in a competitive position with our Safe Routes to School program on the section between the Holcomb School Road and the new development up at the Sears property. So we've been working slowly but surely on trying to get sidewalks up there. Holcomb's, I don't exactly know off the top of my head where the property lines are. There may be property acquisition that we'd have to deal with as well. So it's not as simple as setting some forms and pouring some concrete. There's more to it than that. So that's a long answer, but the short answer is we don't have it programmed. It would be a significant capital expense. If the commission wants to prioritize that area, something else would have to fall off the list, but we're open to that direction.
Well, I get that. I just want to know what we can do, not what we can't do, and we don't know what we can do because we don't know the cost associated with it. So
I don't know it off the top of my head, no.
I mean, an extra 24 inches of width would mean a lot in terms of safety to get somebody removed from the roadway.
Right, and I think that's the striping issue, though. We can resolve that.
This may be a question for the police department. Did we not have a massive accident there this week? On Holcomb?
Yeah, tragically, on Saturday night, a pedestrian was trying to cross Holcomb Boulevard near Front Street and was hit and struck by a vehicle and killed. So I don't know if that has anything to do with striping or not. That's an investigation.
No, but it has to do with the general concern about Holcomb.
Right. Was that the referring to the letter that I got?
That's one of the,
What
yes.
was referring to? Okay.
And that's under investigation, and so I can't answer a lot of questions about that because we're reporting that down to
I just wanted to make sure that.
the attorney's office, but yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, sorry, I have stuff like my leg just got a major cramp in it, so I had to stand up. One of the big problems with Holcomb Boulevard is that it's exactly what you said, Mr. Lewis, is that, we have these projects, we have this, we have that, but the problem still exists. And I guess part of what the concern is that is a very tight location in terms of pavement width and all of that. But I don't want to see a situation come up where we have a fatality there before we do something. And I remember the situation, it was timing, but we had a fatality at 12th and Washington, and now we have, something has happened there that has made it a little safer, but, people are still driving at an extreme rate of speed up the hill. And it doesn't matter that we have a traffic signal there. They still, are just jackrabbiting off the stop. I don't know what the solution is right now, other than, trying to throw some money at it, which we don't actually have in our bag of tricks, so to speak. Would it help at all to, I don't know what you call them, they're the reflector bumps that are along the road? I know those have to be applied with heat, and we don't have the heat right at the moment, but Park Place I know a lot of times they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. And I said, unfortunately, we have been dealt a hand by the county, and I'm not blaming the county, but it was in the county before we had to annex it, and we had to accept all of the existing conditions as they were, because nothing was ever really getting done up there. And we're trying to play catch up on something that, we're trying to basically drink from a fire hose with Holcomb Boulevard and Park Place. It's one of those things where we're doing it as we can. I understand that. That area is, I personally would never walk there. I just think it's unsafe, and driving as slow as I possibly can when I come around that curve, when I go up there, it makes me nervous being in a car. Let alone being a pedestrian there. So.
Well, this isn't new, right? We've heard from the Park Place neighborhood for many years on Holcomb Boulevard. It's been with or without development, there's traffic up and down that hill, and there hasn't been good connectivity from a sidewalk pedestrian since many years ago. The county sponsored, when we transferred jurisdiction of that, part of that deal was they would build sidewalk on one side of the road. And then the other pieces of sidewalk have basically been placed there through small development, infill development along there. For years I've thought, but I don't know, we haven't done one of these in the city in a long time, but because it's so driven by the existing folks in that area, this city has in its code what is called a local improvement district language, whereby you figure out the engineering study, you do the work that's kind of associated with the cost of that facility, and you can do it in small pieces, or in this case, it probably makes sense to get a bigger stretch of it done. There's a workload issue there too that we would have to work through, but if this commission would support the idea of a local improvement district, which would come along with area-wide assessments that would help fund that, it is the community that lives there today that is in need of that. That would be one element, and we're always applying for grants as well, so continuing to look for a funding solution that would include a local improvement district with assessments. If the commission is interested in that, we would be happy to bring that back in a work session form for you if that's what you'd like.
Well, knowing how LIDs work, I don't see that playing very well in Park Place, unfortunately, but, it's a question we can ask. I guess the question I would have as well, is there any opportunity that still exists to apply for community development block grant funds? That's how a bunch of sidewalks got done in the McLaughlin neighborhood, and it was based on the average income of the residents that live in the particular targeted area, and that may be an opportunity if those are still available. We had a pass-through from Clackamas County, and a bunch of areas in McLaughlin got sidewalks that had never, ever had sidewalks before.
I'm happy to look into that. I haven't looked into that recently. I didn't remember. I remember a grant for sidewalk replacements in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I didn't know there was a grant for addition of sidewalks, but I can look into that.
Any other suggestions? I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's about, what can we do to try to make something that's a bad situation, try to make it a little bit better.
And a line never stopped a car from crossing.
Oh, no. Like I said, I just personally wouldn't even walk there. It scares the daylights out.
I assume there's not enough lane width to narrow the lanes to get some of that space you would need for a sidewalk?
When we added the the median, there's a striped median there. I think we're down to 11-foot lanes there, so, or we should be. Obviously, the way it's striped today, it's got a little more than that, but the intention was a narrower lane.
Okay.
So that's what I'm understanding from my staff.
Thank you.
Is there any room for plastic poles? You know, the plastic poles with reflectors that would, is there any room for plastic poles with reflectors on that line that would give people pause about getting that close to it?
We can look at that. It would be behind the white line, and but we're talking 4 inches, so probably would be.
I just don't ever want to read about a fatality because it's something we didn't do. We need to be, what can we do? And let's try to do it. I like the mayor's suggestion.
Okay,
Back to you.
That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any communications from our, well, let me just ask, any other staff have any other communications, anything you want to tell us under communications? That's okay, Matt, I was waiting for you to raise your hand and put it down, but I can see you're not going to do that tonight. Anything new in the community development horizon that we might need to know about?
You'll see us out in downtown on Friday and Saturday doing a intercept survey, trying to ask people how they got downtown as part of our parking study. So we did a study like this, I think, in 2019, and this is the
Is that just
follow-up.
the staff or is there our volunteers?
Staff and consultants.
I know I did one with a bunch of volunteers that we were counting the number of bicycles. And I was down there in 4-hour stretches, and there were more than I thought, which was pretty amazing. Commissioners, Mr. Mitchell, I'll start with you.
I have nothing. Happy to be here.
Mr. Morrow.
I just would like to once again congratulate Commissioner Mitchell, and I can't express how nice it is to once again have 5 people up here. And I'm looking forward to the great work that this body will do, at least until the end of the year. So.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Nothing.
And saving the best for last.
You still haven't gone.
I know. I didn't say I was the best. I'm giving you that compliment.
That's called the last word, the last
There you
word.
go. First of all, congratulations as well, and I'm glad to also have a full commission. And in saying that, we know we'll still have a full commission, I think, after the election, hopefully. I guess one of the things I want to throw out there, based on my comments about the economic development plan, and the possibility of, we're basically mid-goal session. We will have, after the election, either, some version of this commission or another version of this commission, in which case I think regardless of what occurs after the election, this is a new commission. It will be a new commission. And I think that if there are new additions, in addition to Commissioner Mitchell after the election, that, and even if there isn't, even if it is you are the new addition, I think it would be a smart idea to be open to having some sort of a work session, mid-goals, sometime January, February, to check in, but also to give the opportunity for any of the new members of this commission, if that is the case, to give input on moving forward and, may shift some things a little bit. I do want to address the fact that we still have not approved the economic development plan.
I have one more.
Sure.
Just a quick question, because I know we discussed this in urban renewal and decided to cancel that, but I'm assuming that means we also canceled our Tuesday city commission meeting.
We need to, we need to discuss that. I assume the same, but.
I wasn't
I
assuming
assume the
it.
same based on.
I was not assuming it because we weren't meeting as the commission, we were meeting as the Urban Renewal Commission, which is not basically the
Well, we
same.
still have 3 of us that said
Right.
it was a conflict.
So we will resolve that.
Now?
It's been resolved. If there's three of us that said we don't think it's a good idea to have that meeting, then it's resolved.
Well, the question, the way I heard it was that you would not be able to attend. You didn't, nobody said it wasn't a good idea. My understanding was that you would not be available.
If we can't be here or said we wouldn't be here, at least two, that means there's no meeting regardless.
Anyway.
My point here is I want, if we want to have a meeting, then it's got to be done, early in the night. And I said that at the last meeting.
I have no problem with
We've got a plan,
Okay.
I don't know why, it's a work session. It's not, I don't remember in my however long, and I probably.
Is it more than 2 consecutive terms? Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
I don't want to do a meeting. I'm not coming to a meeting.
So, Mr. Conkle, you can assume that we are not having the city commission work session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything to report on C4?
Well, I can report that after our, not at our work session, obviously, but.
You can report on it now under communications.
I don't have those notes with me at this moment.
And you don't have instant recall about that scintillating meeting?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, I'm going to report out on a couple of things just because I think they're important for the commission to know. So the Metropolitan Policy Advisory Committee will be meeting early in November instead of the regular time, which is at the end of the month. And they will be taking up the issue of the Tiger urban growth boundary exchange. And as you noted in information, the county's got some objection to the issue of the property around Happy Valley that was formerly part of Damascus. The other thing that is coming up is the regional transportation plan, and I pulled it up this afternoon, and the staff report from the Metro staff is 47 pages long, and I said, could you please send us the executive summary, because I'm not reading that whole thing. I don't have the time. I have a concern about that plan as I've been aware of it to date, so I will hopefully get a summary and I can digest that. The other thing I wanted to report is that in Monday's Oregonian, then on the 31st, there was a press conference held by several of the mayors who are members of the Oregon Mayors Association, and it involved a request to the state of Oregon for funding to help with houseless issues. I took the prerogative of signing on to that letter request from the state. I think all the mayors in our state have pretty much signed on to it, except for a few exceptions, which I'm sure you can probably guess who they were. But there was a press conference. Mayor Beatty from Beaverton led it off, and then Mr. Wheeler from Portland had some comments, and then there were some other smaller cities that had requested that the state take a look at this, and I forget the big number, but it's a big number. The takeaway from this, folks, is basically that the cities are on the front lines of dealing with this particular issue, and it needed to be brought to the attention of the state that they need to help us solve this problem. The other thing that I wanted to do tonight is, in lieu of the fact that we have a vacancy on the South Fork Water Board, I'd like you to take that the slot for Commissioner O'Donnell. So you would be attending with myself and Commissioner Smith. And then the other one is the C4 subcommittee. Mr. Morrow attends the bigger version of that, and then there is a second one, and I will get Trent Wilson from the county your information so he can send you that information. I know there's at least 1 to 2 meetings coming up before the end of the year, so that would be fantastic. South Fork, I believe, yeah, it's,
but I think we're not.
We might not be meeting because it might, well, no, the last Wednesday of the month is the 30th, but we normally would meet on the 23rd. It's usually the 4th Wednesday of the month. And then he talked about possibly moving it to December 14th is what I recall. He was,
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, I've got it on my
For the
calendar.
holidays.
So December 14th, more than likely, and I'll make sure that Mr. Parno gets information to you about that as well.
I forgot to mention that our C4 meeting is tomorrow, so that's why it was not fresh on my mind.
There you go. See, that's great. Yeah, and Last but not least, I want to mention the great effort by the Downtown Oregon City Association in conjunction with our Oregon City Police Department, who handed out lots of candy on Halloween night in the rain, drippy rain. And I think a good time was had by all. I waved to Sean across the street as I was handing out candy, and I was over with my colleague, Mr. Smith. The other thing that I might mention is that this was one of the things that Officer Libke liked to do, and I thought it was very fitting that you all were there again, although you guys weren't there last year, but I'm glad that you're back, and was very well received. There were a number of small children who were dressed as police officers,
Lots
which
of
was
them,
very
yes.
cute. So I said, oh, you need to go over and see the real thing over across the street. And the one little boy said, I am the real thing. And I said, okay, works well. So, and then again, thank you, staff, for all your work this week. And I'm sorry that Mr. Reed is broken, has damaged his ACL, and our city manager was down for the count. So everybody stay healthy, please. So we will be adjourning our meeting here in about a minute and going into executive session. Thank you.